A junior from Ethan's lab accidentally sent him an explicit photo. A man who had always despised foolishness spoke up to defend her without hesitation. It was just a wrong message. She doesn't have that many ulterior motives. In that moment, I knew, after 7 years together, our relationship was finally over. Chapter 1. I was keeping Ethan company during another late night in the lab when a message came through on his phone. "Can you reply for me?" "Probably Professor Fong," he said. Still half asleep, I unlocked his phone and instantly sobered up. On the screen was a mirror selfie of a young woman. Slim figure. Nearly naked. It was Chloe, a junior in Ethan's lab. "Baby, what do you think I should wear tomorrow?" The tone was brazenly intimate. The message wasn't withdrawn. Not even an attempt. Ethan was still studying the cells under the microscope, eyes lowered, completely unaware of the undercurrent shifting beside him. Tomorrow was my birthday. It fell on a weekend. We had already planned a trip to the coast to celebrate. I had dressed carefully, full of anticipation for the day. And then this message arrived. I handed the phone to Ethan. He glanced at it, barely turning his head, then let out a quiet scoff. Sent to the wrong person. I looked at him sideways and immediately called the number back. She picked up instantly. "Baby, what are you doing?" she asked, voice sweet and suggestive. The curve of her lips on screen was stunning, almost unsettlingly so. I turned the camera toward myself. Chloe froze. "Why is it you?" The video glitched for a second. Then it smoothed out. "I'm so sorry, so sorry. I sent it to the wrong person. I really didn't mean to, I swear it was an accident." "I didn't say anything," Ethan answered in a low voice. "Just be more careful next time." My stomach dropped. I'd known him for 7 years. I knew him too well. Ethan was a perfectionist, he'd always had zero tolerance for stupidity. And I wasn't smart. Ever since we got together, I'd lived on edge, afraid that one day he would decide I wasn't good enough and leave. But he would hold me gently, carefully. "You're different," he'd say. Other women had tried the same tricks before. He saw through them instantly, his expression openly disdainful. I used to feel quietly wounded by that, until Ethan would soften and reassure me. "She's not you. That kind of thing doesn't work on me." But today, something about him felt different. Chapter 2. I could tell, something about his attitude was subtly off. The irritation lodged in my chest, heavy and impossible to swallow. I looked at Ethan. "She's coming on to you." It wasn't a question. The air froze for a split second. The person on the other end of the call went silent, clearly caught off guard by my bluntness. Chloe's face flushed red. "And no, it's not like that. Please don't misunderstand," she said, voice trembling, eyes glossy with tears. "I really sent it to the wrong person by mistake." Her half-bare shoulders only made her look more fragile, more pitiable. Ethan finished his experiment and finally turned toward us. He realized I was upset. A helpless, indulgent smile tugged at his lips as he reached out, ended the call, and lightly pinched my cheek. "Yeah," he said casually. "She was coming on to me." His tone was loose, almost playful, like he was soothing a child who was throwing an unnecessary tantrum. Before I could explode, the lab door swung open. Chloe stood in the doorway. Under an oversized shirt, her long, pale legs were completely exposed. "I wanted to explain in person," she said earnestly, her eyes sincere, her voice carrying a barely perceptible lift. "That message was meant for my boyfriend. I really just mixed it up. I didn't do it on purpose. Please don't misunderstand. If you two argue because of this, I'd feel awful." Ethan glanced at her. "You're overthinking it. We're not arguing." Chloe visibly relaxed, patting her chest lightly. "That scared me so much. I'm so relieved you're okay. When I realized I sent it to the wrong person, I was terrified." "Girls can be sensitive," she added gently. "I was just worried you might misunderstand." Ethan didn't respond. He focused on packing up his things. The more she talked, the angrier I became. By the end of her explanation, I was the one who looked oversensitive and petty. "Are you done yet?" I snapped, urging Ethan to hurry. The tension plunged to freezing point. Chloe froze where she stood. Ethan paused, brows knitting slightly. Almost done. Don't rush. Chloe stood behind him, looking at him with damp, pleading eyes. She made no move to leave. A nameless anger flared up. I was about to say something when I caught sight of my reflection in the glass window. I froze, then let it go. There was no need to lower myself by getting into it with a girl like that. It would be undignified. Chloe's eyes were rimmed red as she looked timidly at Ethan. Ethan. He didn't look at her. Her pride cracked. In the end, all she could manage was, I really didn't mean it, before leaving, dazed and deflated. Chapter 3. Ethan had never been angry with me. He always knew exactly where my emotional pressure points were. That was why he never contradicted me in front of others. Even when I was being unreasonable, he would only talk things through with me in private. Did you really have to be so blunt? He said. You put her in an awkward position. Ethan reached for my hand. You weren't like this before. He turned to look at me. What? I asked, lifting my gaze to meet his. Before, you were the one who said things like that. As a top student in medical school, there was no way he didn't understand what that message implied. In the past, he would never have allowed something like this to happen. But today, he had let it slide. And he had even shown his displeasure with me. A flicker of confusion surfaced in his eyes. From high school until now, countless people had been drawn to Ethan. Yet he had never deigned to give any of them a second glance. He was always fully aware of other people's little schemes, and he never allowed anyone to cross the line. Ethan smiled as he gently brushed the loose strands of hair from my forehead and tucked them behind my ear. This one's on me, he said softly. I put you through a lot. He leaned down and kissed me, his breath warm against my skin. She's just my junior. She doesn't matter. Ethan rested his cheek against mine, lightly nuzzling my hair, his voice solemn as he reassured me of his feelings. There's only you in my heart, Anna. Chapter 4. I didn't know whether Chloe had a boyfriend or not. But I was certain she had ulterior motives toward Ethan. Over the years, there had been plenty of girls like her. And Ethan had never given any of them a chance. But this time, it was different. I had thought my warning to Ethan last time would be enough. I never expected that on my birthday, he would abandon me and rush back to campus for Chloe. A junior in my lab has a competition coming up. Some of her data doesn't add up. I need to take a look. When I woke up, the only thing on my phone was an apologetic message from Ethan. I'll make it up to you next year. I promise. The warmth beside me was still there. Outside the window, the waves roared against the shore, loud and relentless. It was the first birthday I'd ever spent without Ethan. He seemed to have forgotten that I was also competing in that same event. There was a dataset I had been stuck on for a long time. Maya, my roommate and also a member of Ethan's lab, sent me a video and a screenshot. In the video, Chloe was carefully adding reagent into a test tube. Ethan stood behind her, guiding her movements. The chemical reaction startled Chloe. She instinctively stepped back. Straight into Ethan's arms. That scared me to death. Ethan patted her shoulder and spoke softly. It's okay. I'll show you. He took the test tube from her hand and demonstrated. Chloe cupped her face with both hands, looking at Ethan with open admiration. You're amazing. Your girlfriend must be so happy to have someone like you. She blinked up at him with wide, innocent eyes, the picture of naivete. Ethan turned and smiled faintly, offering no denial. The screenshot was from Chloe's social media post. Nothing's impossible when you've got the senior backing you. Tomorrow's competition is basically secured. She stood beside Ethan, holding his hand in a gesture of encouragement. Sweet, earnest, brimming with confidence. Ethan didn't pull away. In that moment, my entire body went cold. It felt like being certain you'd aced an exam, only to realize every answer was wrong. Blood roared through my veins. I wanted nothing more than to crawl through my phone screen and slam that woman to the ground. But after so many years with Ethan, I had learned his way of dealing with things. He used to say, never waste your time or energy on people who aren't worth it. I saved the video and screenshots and returned to campus alone. For a full day and night, Ethan sent no messages. No explanation. At the competition the next day, he entered with Chloe at his side. It was only then that he seemed to remember me. His gaze stalled for a brief second. You're competing too? I stared at him. I told you a month ago. He just hadn't remembered. After that, I crushed Chloe completely. Her research was weak. Her data barely held up under scrutiny. I won easily. When it was over, Chloe stood in the corner, pale-faced, wiping away tears in silence. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm just not good enough. I let you down. Ethan answered coldly. It's fine. You did well enough. Maya let out a sharp laugh. So much for nothing's impossible. Even your precious senior couldn't save you. Today belongs to Anna. Many of our mutual friends were there. Everyone understood exactly what Maya meant. The atmosphere between us shifted, turning strange and tight. Whispers spread. Quiet discussions broke out. Chloe stood beside Ethan, eyes wide and watery, looking delicate and wronged. Ethan, I didn't mean it that way. Someone took screenshots of Chloe's post along with photos from the competition and uploaded them to a student-run gossip forum. Given Ethan's influence, the post exploded almost immediately. Comments flooded in. Nothing's impossible as long as the senior is here, right, senior? Other people's things are always better. Boyfriends included. Exactly. If someone else doesn't want it, I don't either, but if it's taken, it must be good. That forum had always been a breeding ground for gossip. And with Ethan as the central figure, the post spread like wildfire. In less than half a day, the entire campus knew. Some watched for entertainment. Others were furious on my behalf. As for Chloe, she had already been identified. People pointed her out openly when she walked by. Her face drained of color as she rushed back to her dorm, eyes red. When her roommates saw her, one of them immediately grabbed a bottle of disinfectant spray and started spraying the air. This place is disgusting. It reeks of fake innocence. I'm going to throw up. Chloe lowered her head, biting her lip hard, and hurried out of the room. The gossip behind her grew even louder. Shameless. Absolutely disgusting. Her face burned hot as she went to find Ethan in the lab. Crying so hard she could barely stand. Chapter 5. Ethan had just finished an observation when he turned his head and saw Chloe standing there, head lowered, quietly sobbing. What's wrong? He asked, frowning. The moment Chloe opened her mouth, tears spilled out uncontrollably. She kept her head down, choking back sobs, biting her lip as if trying to stay strong. Ethan, we shouldn't talk anymore. I'm scared. Ethan rubbed his temples. A trace of impatience crossed his face. He didn't press her for details. He simply watched her in silence, occasionally handing her a tissue. After she had cried herself nearly dry, Chloe finally spoke, bringing up what had been posted online. I'm sorry, Ethan. This is all my fault. I caused trouble for both of you. I was just so anxious back then. After you helped me fix the data, I got too excited. Chloe wiped her tears and explained in a low voice. I didn't expect her to get so angry. Her tone was drenched in grievance, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Maybe I should go apologize to her again. This was my mistake to begin with. I really caused you trouble. Ethan had never cared much about what happened around campus. He had his own schedule, his own plans. Nothing, aside from his studies and me, was supposed to disrupt his path. But he also knew that once something like this broke out, the consequences were impossible to control. At that thought, the chill on Ethan's stern face deepened. I understand, he said coldly. Chapter 6. Ethan was waiting for me outside the library, holding an umbrella. Rain was pouring down in sheets, and he held the umbrella with one hand. His cool, restrained elegance drew countless glances, some deliberate, some not. When he saw me step outside, a faint smile finally surfaced in his otherwise unreadable eyes. There are some things I want to explain, he said. Ethan let out a quiet sigh. Anna, Chloe is just a junior in my program. The data affects the entire group's results. I wasn't helping only her, nothing more than that. I looked into his eyes, trying to find something familiar. I couldn't. I'm really sorry. Chloe's voice suddenly cut in from behind Ethan. Both of us turned. She was standing in the rain, completely soaked. She bent forward in a deep bow, rain pouring down her back. Humble. Fragile. Earnest. There was an error in the experiment data yesterday. I panicked because I was afraid I'd drag the whole group down, so I called him without thinking. I didn't think it through. This was all my fault. I promise it will never happen again. Please forgive me, and forgive him. People were constantly passing in and out of the library, their gazes drawn toward us. It was hard to tell whether the wetness on Chloe's face was rain or tears. She looked utterly wretched. And yet, the corners of her lips still curved faintly upward, quietly confident, almost victorious. She glanced at Ethan cautiously, waiting for him to show her a hint of mercy. Ethan looked at me, but said nothing. The hope in her eyes was washed away by the rain. All that remained was helplessness. I raised an eyebrow. Everyone knows Ethan is my boyfriend. And yet you still developed inappropriate feelings for him and acted on them. This is the chance Ethan is giving you. What I want is his apology. As for you, I will never forgive you. Chloe hadn't expected such a blunt rejection. Whatever expression she had was quickly blurred by the rain, turning awkward. Anna, Chloe just wants to apologize, Ethan finally said. He knew my temperament well. I was petty. I held grudges. I didn't forgive easily. But he was Ethan. The man I had loved for 7 years. From a secret crush in high school to a relationship that blossomed in college. I had walked 7 full years with him. I let out a long breath, swallowing the knot in my chest. You should be grateful I have manners. Otherwise, the water in my thermos would already be on your face. I decided to give us another chance. After 7 years together, letting go felt unbearable. Just this once. Chapter 7. You didn't have to blow this up, Ethan said, bringing up the anonymous forum while we were eating. We could have sat down and talked it through. Now it's turned into something that's hard to clean up. I looked up, fixing my gaze on the man across from me, his features sharp and restrained. This was the face that had captivated me since high school. If it was truly tainted now, would I still find myself drawn to it the same way? Is this some kind of compliance test? I asked. Pushing my boundaries over and over, forcing me to swallow my anger. If it is, then I refuse to comply. Those who benefit stay silent. Those who are hurt end up hysterical. I had no intention of becoming either. Only when the situation started turning against him did he step in to resolve it. Ethan calmly picked the scallions out of my mushroom soup and placed the bowl back in front of me. She's having a hard time on campus because of this now, he said. They'll probably say you were bullying someone junior to you. There wasn't a crack in his expression. He looked as though he were genuinely considering things from my perspective. Ethan met my eyes steadily, waiting for me to think it through. He had always been composed, controlled. And I had never believed in fighting over a relationship. This was the first time a third party had come between us. Ethan, I've loved you for 7 years, I said. And what I loved was the version of you who was different, clean, principled. His gaze faltered. He clearly hadn't expected that. I love you. Maybe I always will. But this heart is still mine. What I want is a pure relationship. A clean Ethan. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. But my life will never pause for you alone. A long silence followed. Ethan lowered his head. I know, he said quietly. I've always known. His voice was low, heavy with resignation. Chapter 8. Ethan cut off every possibility that might feed Chloe's illusions. Already mediocre to begin with, Chloe was quickly pushed out of the lab group. In the past, she had been able to rely on her connection to Ethan to borrow equipment and resources. Now, no one even bothered to look at her. This wasn't something I needed to instigate or hint at. In an age where emotional responsibility was scarce, moral judgment had grown unusually sharp. Everyone despised third parties who disrupted other people's relationships. Whether in the dorms or walking around campus, Chloe was constantly pointed at and whispered about. She couldn't endure the stares and condemnation. Every day, she hid under her blanket, crying in secret. In less than 2 weeks, she had grown noticeably thinner, her once lively presence drained away. The next time Ethan saw Chloe was at the lab's waste disposal area. Under the blazing sun, she was wearing a short skirt, crouched among piles of discarded experimental waste. She was frantically searching for data that her teammates had thrown away. Small cuts dotted her pale legs, glaringly visible in the harsh sunlight. Ethan saw the scene just as he was about to dispose of fragile materials himself. Without a second thought, he dropped what he was holding and yanked her to her feet. Are you insane? He snapped. Do you have any idea how dangerous this place is? His eyes burned with a mix of urgency and anger. Ethan. When Chloe recognized him, tears surged out uncontrollably. She had always harbored feelings for Ethan, feelings that had become forbidden only because of me. After weeks of being ostracized, the pressure had pushed her to the brink. Now, being shown concern by the man she loved. She nearly threw herself into his arms, desperate to sob it all out. In barely half a month, the once bright, playful girl had been worn down to this. Ethan went to Chloe's lab group. One of the members shot her a look full of contempt. Someone with no morals like her, our lab doesn't want her data. It's contaminated. Ethan lost his temper, something he rarely ever did. He dragged Chloe to me. With one swift motion, he ripped the experimental data I was working on straight out of my hands and tore it to shreds. Paper flew everywhere. It blocked out the last trace of light in his eyes. Anna, I did exactly what you asked. I kept my distance from her. What more do you want? Why won't you let her go? Do you really think bullying someone weaker than you will restore the dignity you lost? He stared at me, fury completely overtaking his expression. I had never seen Ethan like this. He was terrifyingly unfamiliar. He looked at me coldly, and his words were sharper than winter wind. You're stubborn and twisted. No wonder you were bullied back then. His words dragged me straight back into that dark, hopeless time. In my junior year of high school, I was isolated and bullied for being withdrawn. They mocked me with vicious words. Cruel pranks left me bruised day after day. Classmates covered for one another. Teachers turned a blind eye. That entire year became a shadow I could never escape. It was Ethan who ended it all. Back then, he had stood in front of me like a savior, shielding me from every rumor and insult. From that moment on, he took root in my heart. Irreversibly. Anna, don't become the kind of person I despise, he had said back then. And don't make me regret this. Regret what? Being with me all these years? I stared blankly at the man who had suddenly lost all reason. 3 years of secret love. 4 years together. All of it, reduced to a single word, regret. This was the first time Ethan had taken another woman's side, over something I had never even done. No explanations. No verification. He condemned me outright. The man I had once loved most, the man who had sworn I was the one he loved, now took my old wounds and turned them into a blade, driving it straight into my heart. The feeling was strange. The person standing in front of me suddenly seemed so ordinary. He was no longer the confident, radiant man he used to be. For the first time, I understood what it meant to fade into the crowd. What's spilled can never be gathered again. And broken mirrors never truly mend. Chapter 9. Ethan personally helped Chloe with her experiments, taking her around to gather references and borrow equipment. He even used his own connections to put her in touch with senior experts, tutoring her himself and answering her questions. As for Maya, the teammate who had been in the group from the very beginning. If you talk too much, you can go to another lab, Ethan said coldly. I don't tolerate teammates who stir trouble here. Maya met his gaze without flinching. My conscience is clear. You don't have the right to kick me out. You may lack basic ethics, but Anna doesn't deserve to be deceived by people like you. She has the right to know. Ethan let out a short, humorless laugh. If you're so full of justice, then go join her group. I guess this lab is beneath someone as noble as you. I lead this project. The lab has approved your removal from the team. You can leave today. Maya's pupils shrank in shock. Ethan, how dare you? Everyone knew that once a lab group was formed, members weren't removed midway unless there were extraordinary circumstances. It affected their theses, their graduation, everything. To be forced into a new group meant starting over from scratch. And yet, Ethan had expelled her with a single sentence. Maya could never have imagined that for the sake of Chloe, he would actually do this. You spread a teammate's private matters at will, Ethan continued. Who's to say you wouldn't leak experimental data next? With no professional ethics like this, what right do you have to stay in my lab? That sealed it. Maya had no room to argue. Defeated, she began packing up her things. The other members exchanged looks but wisely said nothing. When I saw Maya, before I could even speak, tears spilled down her face like rain. She wiped them away stubbornly, forced a smile, and waved at me. Hey, Anna. Looks like we're in the same group now. Chapter 10. Maya and I went back and forth to the academic affairs office countless times, trying to get the decision reversed. Every answer was the same: Ethan refused to take her back onto the project. Ethan's stance was unwavering. I knew he was waiting for me to go to him in person. He was far more ruthless than his gentle exterior suggested. We reached a stalemate. Maya's situation was urgent, she couldn't stay out of a lab for long. Just as I was preparing to give in first, Chloe came to find me. Ethan asked me to pick up the experimental materials you were keeping, along with the data he helped you organize, she said. My experiment needs them. When it came to striking at the heart, Ethan was more skilled than anyone. I sorted through everything related to Ethan and handed it all to Chloe. After taking it, she pulled out her phone. Maybe we should add each other, she said. If Ethan has something to say later, you can contact me. I laughed in disbelief. No thanks. I'd rather not dirty my phone. Chloe froze for a second, then quickly composed herself. But Ethan said he wants some time to cool off. If there's anything later, he wants me to contact you. I nodded. Okay. Then wait here. I turned and went back to the dorm. I packed up everything that had anything to do with Ethan. Maya stopped me. Why do this? You've been together for so many years. Throwing it away over Chloe, it's not worth it. Whether something was worth it depended entirely on who the other person was. The Ethan from before had been worth my lowering myself into the dust. But the Ethan now. He no longer had that right. Take these too, I said calmly. All of it. The trash. Chloe hugged the pile to her chest, delight flickering across her eyes. Thank you. I'll make sure everything gets to Ethan. I smiled as well. You're welcome. Whether it's a man or garbage, you take it all without complaint. Truly a professional recycling station. Watching Chloe's expression stiffen, I felt a rare lightness of heart as I shut the door. Ethan was waiting for me to be the one to apologize first. But why should I? Why should I be the one to say sorry? Chapter 11. I blocked and deleted every way Ethan had to contact me. He had his pride. I had my dignity. From that moment on, there was nothing left between us. I went to my advisor, hoping he could step in and help Maya return to her lab group. But Maya refused. With someone like him, there's no guarantee he wouldn't make things difficult for me once I'm back, she said calmly. He doesn't separate personal feelings from work. That group will be ruined sooner or later. This is just cutting my losses early. Even if I have to start over, I'm not afraid. I'll just have to trouble you a bit more from now on. She sounded confident, but the guilt never left me. I handed over all the data and materials I had organized. They were detailed, but she still struggled through them at first. Thankfully, effort paid off. Before long, she caught up. As for Ethan and Chloe, rumors spread through campus like wildfire. Front row seats together at a guest lecture by a renowned expert. Matching custom rings on Chloe's hand. A photo of the two of them posted together on a medical forum. Matching couple shirts when they stood side by side in the cafeteria. Posts kept flooding the forum. Wait, did she actually pull it off and replace her? The original girlfriend really got pushed out just like that. Impressive. Truly skilled. Where do I sign up for Chloe's master class? Maya came over and showed me the posts. They're being this public on purpose. Isn't this basically slapping you in the face, she said. I remember Ethan used to be really low-key. How did he turn into this? In every photo, from every angle, the two of them looked intimate, like a couple deep in love. I stared at the rings for a long time. They were the pair Ethan had hand-polished himself for our first anniversary. When I was packing up my things, I had hesitated for a long time before deciding to keep my ring. Now, the other half had been replaced. The one on my hand no longer had any meaning. And just like that, I felt strangely relieved. Yeah, I said softly. When did he change? Maya pressed her lips together, then quietly stepped out, leaving me alone in the dorm. Some things only needed to be said that much. The sadness lasted one night. I didn't have the energy to manage my emotions, or even to soothe them. I let them run their course. The next day, I pulled myself together. At the time, I was fully focused on competing for a research fellowship at KLA Medical University. Only a handful of candidates were accepted each year. I had originally planned to apply together with Ethan, to work toward it side by side. But now, we stood at two different crossroads. My advisor was a peculiar old man. He never participated in university forums or lectures, devoting himself entirely to research. Because of his reputation, the school couldn't do much about him. Stubborn. Reclusive. Everyone called him Professor Grant. Professor Grant. Old Grant. In some ways, he was very much like me. When he saw me in the lab, Professor Grant frowned deeply. "Didn't I give you a few days off?" He had heard about what happened between Ethan and me. He'd even messaged me, telling me to rest for a while. I smiled. My future matters more than anything. Professor Grant stared at me for a long moment and let out a long breath. "As long as you've thought it through. Get back to work." As he turned away, I heard him mutter under his breath. "Men are useless anyway. Test tubes are far more reliable." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He seemed to have forgotten that he, too, was a man. Chapter 12. Days and nights blurred together under the weight of non-stop experiments. In a way, it was a blessing. At least I had no time left for self-pity. It wasn't until the results were finally settled that I was able to breathe again. Only when I returned to something resembling a normal routine did I notice the looks people were giving me. Ethan had openly come forward to defend Chloe, and the tide of public opinion slowly began to shift. Photos of Chloe bowing in the rain spread everywhere. Rumors about me grew louder by the day. As I walked across campus, I could hear voices behind me. A group of girls were openly discussing the situation. "I told you Ethan's ex wasn't anything special." Always had that sour look on her face. Bet she was bullied in high school and turned twisted, now taking it out on others. And who knows if those data sets were even hers. Didn't people say her boyfriend did everything for her? "You're wrong, he's her ex now." I stopped and turned to face them. "I recorded everything you just said." They exchanged glances. "You say I bullied someone, do you have evidence?" I continued calmly. "If not, I'll be calling the police and filing a report for defamation and spreading false information." The girl leading the group panicked immediately. No, we didn't make it up. We just saw it online." She pulled out her phone and found the posts. The target was unmistakable. Every single one of them pointed at me. Bullying a junior student. Academic misconduct. All looks, no brains. Fabricated data. Every experiment done by her boyfriend. I went to the academic affairs office. The school refused to intervene. "They're just a few posts. Why make such a big deal out of it? You're leaving soon anyway. This won't affect you in the future. Just let it go." It felt like being dragged back into high school. The institution turned a blind eye, eager only to smooth things over. But I wasn't the Anna I had been back then. If no one else was going to take it seriously, then I would. I photographed and archived every post, every rumor. With the evidence in hand, I went to the police. They traced the IP address of the posts. It led to an internet cafe near campus. The surveillance footage clearly showed Chloe. The situation was suddenly very clear. When the police summoned her, she arrived quickly. Ethan came with her. "This was really just a conflict between us," Chloe said lightly. "I feel bad that Ethan had to come all this way with me." She was still radiant, still triumphant. As if having Ethan by her side meant she owned the world. The show of victory was unmistakable. Ethan sat across from me, staring without blinking. The look in his eyes was dark, unreadable, the pressure around him almost suffocating. I looked at them calmly. None of the reactions I'd imagined myself having came. I accepted, without resistance, that we were already over. "Ethan, ever since we met, it feels like you've always misunderstood me," Chloe said softly. "I don't even know what I did wrong, but I can still apologize, as long as it makes you feel better." "I'm sorry, Ethan. I hope you can forgive me." She went on and on by herself. Staying by Ethan's side had refined her ability to perform. But at its core, she was still just as childish. I couldn't be bothered to respond. I didn't even spare her a glance. Chloe's expression stiffened. She turned toward Ethan, eyes filling with tears, silently asking for help. He didn't notice. His lips were pressed into a thin line, silent and unmoving. Chapter 13. When the police laid out the evidence, a flash of panic crossed Chloe's face. She shot back instinctively. On what grounds? What proof do you have that I was the one spreading rumors and defaming her? She clearly knew how to talk. In just a few sentences, she shifted all the blame onto me. And herself, she painted as nothing more than a victim. But I wasn't stupid. And neither were the police. Her stubborn refusal to budge finally exhausted my patience. At first, all I wanted was a public apology, I said calmly. But now I see, I was being far too lenient. I don't have time to waste going back and forth with you. My lawyer will handle this from here. I stood up, ready to leave. The man who had worn a cold expression since the moment we arrived suddenly sharpened his gaze, but what he asked had nothing to do with the case. What do you mean, you don't have time? I turned around. Seeing the confusion on his face, I found it almost amusing. Looks like you've really been busy lately. I glanced at Chloe beside him, then added, almost kindly. The KLA fellowship results are out. Unfortunately, you didn't make it. In a week, I'll be leaving for the program. So no, I really don't have time to deal with this mess. I watched with satisfaction as Ethan's expression slowly stiffened. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely pleased. Only Chloe seemed quietly delighted. Well then, congratulations, Ethan, she said sweetly. While you're away, I'll take good care of Ethan for you. Ethan stared at me in disbelief. How did you not tell me? I frowned slightly. This is my business. What does it have to do with you? I replied coolly. Why would I tell you? I bit down hard on the word relationship. The shock on his face vanished instantly. I smiled and held up the acceptance notice. After all, we did know each other once. Don't you think news like this deserves at least a congratulations? The pressure around Ethan dropped to freezing point. His composure barely held as he forced the words out. Anna. I'm your boyfriend. I let out a soft laugh. Ethan, did you forget? We already broke up. His lips pressed into a thin line as he replied coldly. I never said we broke up. I thought, we were just going through a rough patch. I couldn't help it, I laughed out loud. What nonsense are you talking about? When you and your new girlfriend were inseparable, acting like a couple everywhere you went, you called that a rough patch? So what was I supposed to do? Stand around and wait for you to come to your senses? Wait for you to grace me with your attention one day? Ethan, you're not that irresistible. You're not worth waiting for. With every sentence, his face darkened further. By the time I finished the last one, his expression completely collapsed. Ethan, weren't you the one who taught me never to waste time on people who aren't worth it? So tell me, I said quietly, did I learn that lesson wrong? He stood there, frozen. And for the first time, deep regret surfaced unmistakably in his eyes. Chapter 14. Ethan stood stubbornly downstairs outside the dorm. People passing by couldn't help but glance over. He's been standing there for 3 days, Maya said, coming back from the cafeteria with takeout. I zipped up my suitcase, washed my hands, and sat down to eat. Did someone steal all the salt from the cafeteria? I muttered. This is bland to the point of insult. Maya glanced out the window. It's raining. He's just standing there, no umbrella. I didn't respond, my eyes fixed on the scallions floating in the mushroom soup. My tastes were fussy. I liked mushroom soup with scallions, but I didn't like eating the scallions themselves. Whenever I ate with Ethan before, he would patiently pick them out for me. I stared at the bowl for a long time, until my eyes started to sting. Too many scallions. I lost my appetite. I grabbed an umbrella and went downstairs. Ethan stood in the rain, every trace of his former confidence gone. The rain had washed away his composure, leaving him looking utterly defeated. Anna, I didn't cheat, he said hoarsely. I never once thought about breaking up with you. His eyes were red, his face soaked, whether with rain or tears, I couldn't tell. I never crossed the line. There was nothing improper between her and me. I held the umbrella, with no intention of sharing it with him. Ethan, you and your dear junior labmate have been inseparable every day. My gaze dropped to his right hand. The ring was still on his middle finger. You even gave her a matching ring. And you think that's not crossing the line? I took my own ring out of my pocket. Since it already belongs to someone else now, there's no reason for me to keep mine. I tossed it casually into the nearby shrubs. The ring disappeared into the rain-soaked greenery, gone without a trace. Ethan's expression shattered. He lunged toward the bushes without hesitation. He dropped to the ground, frantically searching through the wet leaves. I watched his back, completely unmoved. It's useless, Ethan. We're over. He knelt there, lifting his rain-drenched, broken face toward me. How can you be this ruthless? He demanded. How could you bring yourself to do this? I looked into his eyes, trying to see what lay beneath. Compared to the day you personally tore open my old wounds, I said quietly, I'm still one step behind you. His gaze froze. Only then did he remember our last conversation. Regret surged wildly in his eyes. Ethan couldn't accept my decisiveness. In his mind, there had been nothing improper between him and Chloe. He believed he had defended her only because he couldn't stand seeing a weaker person bullied. During the so-called Cold War, he had merely intended to use Chloe to force Anna to back down. He didn't understand how things had spiraled this far. Why Anna was so resolute about ending things. He even suspected, if only for a moment, that Anna might have cheated first and was using this as an excuse. The thought lasted less than a second before he rejected it himself. He knew Anna too well. Once she made up her mind, she never wavered. Ethan had always believed, without question, that Anna truly loved him. And that she always would. That certainty had been so absolute that he gradually forgot. Anna had never been someone who knew how to lose. From beginning to end, trying to force her to lower her head had been a mistake. Yes. He was wrong. And the price he paid for that mistake was far too high. He would never get the chance to fix it. Let's break up, Ethan. In the end, he finally heard those words. From Anna's lips. Chapter 15. Ethan was still lying in the rain, searching for the ring. I lost my patience and turned to leave. That was when Chloe suddenly appeared. She wasn't holding an umbrella. She rushed up from behind and wrapped her arms around Ethan. Ethan, come back with me, she said urgently. It's just a ring. I'll make you a new one myself when we get back. Ethan's body jolted. He shoved Chloe hard, sending her sprawling to the ground. Grabbing her right hand, he desperately tried to rip the ring off her finger. Tell me, he demanded wildly. Where did this ring come from? Chloe cried out in pain, struggling to pull free. But Ethan only tightened his grip. Ethan, what are you talking about? She said through tears. I bought this ring myself. It was as if Ethan had grabbed onto a final lifeline. He staggered toward me. Anna, you heard her, didn't you? It wasn't me. There was nothing between us. The misunderstanding was cleared. But it didn't matter anymore. Seeing that I didn't react, Ethan dragged Chloe toward me, forcing her to apologize. Her hair was disheveled, tears streaking down her face. I was wrong. If it'll make you feel better, I'll do anything. As always, Chloe hid behind weakness to assert control. Fine, I said coldly. Kneel. I still won't forgive you. I agreed without hesitation. She froze, stunned into silence. I turned my gaze to Ethan. Ethan, this is the weak person you keep talking about. You know perfectly well she's been using weakness as a weapon from the very beginning. You just chose to look the other way. Ethan's breathing hitched. Red crept into the corners of his eyes. At last, he realized there was no longer any possibility between us. He pulled me tightly into his arms, murmuring over and over again. Anna, I didn't cheat. I don't want to break up. His voice was low and desperate, echoing in my ears. Please, give me one more chance. Just this once. I broke free from his grip. Why should I forgive you? Ethan refused to let go. I didn't do anything. I let out a mocking laugh, as if I just heard a joke. And so what? I said. What difference does that make? You knew Chloe had feelings for you, and you still let her cross the line. You knew I would never back down easily, yet you kicked Maya out of the lab just to force me to submit. You knew exactly how to provoke me, so you sent Chloe to take things from me. You knew about my past wounds, so you knew exactly what to say to hurt me the most. You knew everything. And you did everything. Tears slid down my face, despite myself. I warned you long ago, Ethan. His body swayed. Lips trembling, he finally spoke the apology. I'm sorry. I never had feelings for her. From beginning to end, the only person I loved was you. I was too arrogant. I never meant to truly hurt you. Ethan's repentance meant nothing to me now. The damage is already done, I said quietly. Don't dress it up with fake remorse. Maybe he was telling the truth. But I wouldn't fall into the same trap twice. And I would never give anyone another chance to hurt me. Chapter 16. Ethan refused to accept the breakup. In the days before my departure, he stayed by my side almost constantly, never letting me out of his sight. As for Chloe, Ethan posted explanations and apologies both on his social media and on the anonymous campus forum. Overnight, Chloe once again became the target of public scorn. Before I left, I had a lawyer draft a formal legal notice and send it to her. It didn't carry much real weight, but it frightened her badly. When she came to see me, dark circles hung under her eyes. Even thick foundation couldn't hide how worn down she looked. I noticed you on the first day of school, she said suddenly. I was a little surprised. Ethan was waiting for you. I went to ask for directions, and he pointed the way. I wanted to add him, but he rejected me. Then I saw you. The moment he saw you, he smiled and asked what you wanted to eat. But you never looked at him. Not once. You were too busy reading the materials in your hands. A trace of mockery crept onto Chloe's face. A man as outstanding as him, you never deserved him. I just met him a few years later than you did. If I'd met him first, I wouldn't have lost to you. It was as if she had finally found an excuse for her defeat. I stirred my spoon and finished my bowl of mushroom soup. Turns out, mushroom soup without scallions tasted just as good. My indifference made Chloe's eyes turn bloodshot. You just used him as a stepping stone, she snapped. You wanted to climb higher by standing on him. I finally looked up at her. And? I asked calmly. Why not? Who says women aren't allowed to step on men to move up? She froze, hatred flooding her eyes. You never loved him. I studied her leisurely. Is that so? You love him, but does he want you? I don't love him. And yet he's perfectly willing to be stepped on by me. Anna. Chloe choked on her words, completely losing control. What makes you so special? You're withdrawn, weird, always wearing that sour expression like the world owes you something. No wonder you were bullied in high school, you deserved it. Ah. I flung the remaining half bowl of mushroom soup straight into her face. Anna. You. I followed it immediately with a slap across her cheek. The sound rang out sharp and clear. No one owes me anything, I said coldly. But you owe me this slap. Who do you think you are, bringing up my past? I've wanted to throw that soup on you for a long time. I handed Chloe's case entirely over to my lawyer and to Maya. We would pursue the maximum penalty. She could be immature. She could be brazen. But she crossed my bottom line again and again. And now, she would have to learn that mistakes come with consequences. Chapter 17. Ethan finally understood there was no room left to turn things around. He agreed to the breakup calmly. He eventually found the ring, threaded it onto a cord, and wore it around his neck. The night before I left, he asked me out to dinner. Let's treat it as our breakup meal, he said. His voice was hoarse, trembling slightly. We ate in silence. The server brought over a bowl of mushroom soup. Ethan took it and carefully picked out the scallions. I watched him. His long, clean fingers began to tremble more and more. Until he finally broke down, unable to hold back his tears. I didn't touch the soup. We ended things with dignity. Said our goodbyes. My 7-year relationship came to a close that night. Chapter 18. A year later, Ethan was admitted to KLA as well. The ring still hung around his neck. He stood there with his unmistakable presence, instantly drawing every eye. The coordinator assigned him to my research group, saying it would make collaboration easier. After class one day, a gossip-loving classmate pulled me aside. The new guy, Ethan. You know him, don't you? I smiled at her. In a way. She looked exactly as smug as expected. The way he looks at you isn't exactly innocent. I didn't answer, focusing instead on the paper in my hands. After Ethan joined, the group dynamic subtly shifted. He became that man again, quiet, courteous, impeccably restrained. In daily work, he was disciplined and respectful, never crossing a line. But if you paid close attention, you could always sense a faint tremor beneath the surface. The kind that came from extreme restraint. In quieter moments, he would chat casually with Maya. That was when I learned Chloe's sentence had been finalized. She was sentenced to a year in prison, plus tens of thousands in civil damages. I knew that was the maximum the lawyer had managed to secure. She was expelled the moment she got out, Maya told me. No point making a fuss, the school has the right to expel students who break the law. Ethan's gone too. She had nowhere to turn, so she held up protest signs at the school gate and got taken away by the police again. For the sake of a man, her life is basically over. For a man, she gambled her future and her fate. Chloe didn't struggle for long before giving up completely. She tried to find work, but no company wanted someone with a criminal record. In the end, she returned to her hometown and took a job as a supermarket cashier. Ethan grew increasingly distant. Only when he saw me did the guarded look on his face soften, just a little. Once, when we went out to eat, he ordered mushroom soup. He paused when he went to pick out the scallions. He had forgotten. This was abroad. There were no scallions in the soup. On my birthday, I received an exquisitely crafted gift. Hand-carved. Obviously made with care. I returned it to him. Ethan stubbornly refused to take it back. I owe you this, he said. I declined. The day we broke up, we settled everything between us. His eyes reddened instantly. He stood there, lost. He opened his mouth to speak, but I stopped him. There's no need. Ethan, I don't need it anymore. My feelings for him began with love at first sight. And in the end, I returned him to the sea of people. The tender shoot that sprouted in youth did bloom. Only the fruit it bore was sour and hard to swallow. Fortunately, I only took one bite. At this point, my love life is a public service announcement. Free of charge.